All right, we are on page 2 of your new packet. Go ahead and attempt this warm-up. Hit pause. Okay, if you did this properly, this is really tricky because for every single one of these, we're looking for factors of 10. However, all of their middle terms are different and the signs that they end with are different. So to me, the easiest way to start is to look at the last sign. Here, the last sign is a plus sign, and here the last sign is a plus sign. That tells me that the signs inside of a factored version need to be the same. So it's either these belong to either B or A because these ones have the same signs and these ones have the same signs. So if I picture these bridges, negative 2x, negative 5x, they make negative 7x. So that matches here. If I picture these ones, this makes positive 1x, this makes positive 10x, and together those make positive 11x, which match here. Finally, we have opposite signs. This is a plus and a minus. This is a plus and a minus because the last sign was a minus sign, then the signs inside are opposites. So if I picture these bridges, negative 2x, positive 5x, that makes a positive 3x, which matches here, which leaves D for 3. How did you do? If that's not making sense or you need a minute to process and you want to make sure that this makes sense, then hit pause and take the time you need to make sure that you understand this warm-up. Okay, we're going to move on to a review. We have our little rules to live by over here. Remember, if the last sign is positive, that means the signs inside have to be the same when you factor them. If the last sign is a subtraction sign or minus, then that means that the signs inside of the factors need to be opposites, where one is positive, one is negative. So this is a review, and we're building off of this today. So take a second and see if you can factor these two examples correctly. Hit pause or hit play when you're ready. Okay, so following our little ideas here, we need factors of the first term to go in the first spots when we factor these into two binomials, x and x. Then we want factors of the last term to go in the last spots. How can we make 9? 1 times 9, 3 times 3. I need a combination that can make the middle term, which in this case, only the 1 and the 9 can combine to make the 10. So I'm going to plug those in. And then finally, I look at the signs. The sign inside, or the last sign is a plus sign. That tells me that the signs I use inside have to be the same. They're either both plus or they're both minus. But because this one is a minus sign, that tells me I'm using this combination, minus, minus. This is my answer. I'm going to draw my bridges to confirm that I do, in fact, end up with a negative 10x. So negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 9 times x is negative 9x. Together, those combine to make negative 10x. Remember, you always have the option to actually multiply this whole thing back together. So that's what I'm going to do really quick to show you that you can check your answer. Don't forget, you always have this as an option, especially on a level up and a test. You should do this to make sure you get it right. X times x is x squared. X times negative 9 is negative 9x. Negative 1 times x is negative 1x. Negative 1 times negative 9 is positive 9. When I combine these like terms, I end up with x squared minus 10x plus 9. This matches my original problem. So I know I did this correct. If you follow the steps, you'll get the correct work, but sometimes people make a little mistake, like they read the sign situation wrong and they think they're fine, but they're not. Again, if you haven't tried B or you think you might have made a mistake, hit pause and spend some time on it and hit play when you're ready. This is a trinomial. We're trying to factor into two sets of binomials. Factors of the first term go in the first spots. Factors of the last term go in the last spots. How can we make 12? 1 times 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Of these combinations, which ones can make a 4? Only the 2 and the 6. The last sign is a minus sign. If it's a minus sign, that tells me that the signs inside have to be opposites. But I'm trying to make a positive 4x. So that means that the larger number, if they need to combine to make a positive number, then the larger number needs to be the positive. This is my answer, but by drawing my bridges, I can confirm that I did that correctly and placed the signs correctly. Together, those make a positive 4x. Good. Okay, so we're building upon this skill. Flip to the next page. Now, for the first time ever, we're going to have an A term, okay, where it's not 1. It's something larger than 1, like 2. The A is always going to be the number in front of x squared. So in this case, it's 2. In this example, it's also 2. Down here, it's 5, and here it's 6. So we're still following the same exact process we've been doing. I need factors of the first term to go in the first spots. But now it's not x times x. What factors make 2x squared? 1x times 2x. It's nice when it's a prime number like 2 because then you only have one possible option. So I'm going to go ahead and plug those in, 1x and 2x, because I know that's my only option. But with 12, I have more than one option. Factors of the last term go in the last spots. How can I make 12? Well, 1 times 12, 2 times 6, or 3 times 4. I need these still to be able to make the middle term, 11, but it gets more complicated now because I know when I draw my bridges, I'm going to have to multiply by 2. So I'm going to switch to pencil for some of this, but before I do, I know my signs have to be the same, and they're both going to be plus signs. So that's something else that I know for certain. But now let's go ahead and plug this in and see what happens. I'm going to try a 1 and a 12 and see what happens. 1 times 2x is positive 1x. 1x times 12x is positive 12x. Together, those make positive 13x. That is not the correct middle term, so I'm not doing that correctly. But before I give up and say that this doesn't work, I first need to switch these around. I'm going to first try 12 and then 1 over here. But 12 times 2 makes 24, and 1 times 1 makes 1. Together, those make 25x. That is also not right. So I can confidently say this one doesn't work. Now I'm going to do the same process, but I'm going to do this with 2 and 6 and see what happens. 2 times 2 is 4x. 1x times 6 is 6x. Together, those make 10x. Really close, but not correct. So I'm going to first try flipping these around before I give up on this as an option. 6 times 2. So 6 times 2 is 12x. 1x times 2x is 2x. Together, they make 14x. Again, not correct. Now I've tried both of these options, flipped around. It didn't work. So it has to be 3 or 4, or 3 and 4. Otherwise, this one's not factorable. So I'm going to plug in a 3. I'm going to plug in a 4. 3 times 2 is 6x. 1 times 4 is 4x. That makes 10x. Nope. But I have one option left. Let's put the 4 over here and the 3 over here and see what happens. 4 times 2 is 8x. 1x times 3 is 3x. Whew, finally got it. There's our answer. So that's the only difference with what we're doing. We're still following the same exact process. The downside is that you have to do a lot of guess and check, but it can be really fun. The more you do this, the easier it gets, the more likely you are to pick the correct number the first time. So I'm going to follow the same process. And if you think you know what you're doing, hit pause and go ahead and try all of these on your own. And then if you get stuck, hit play, or when you're done, hit play so you can confirm you did them all right. So factors of the first term go in the first spots. So 1x and 2x. And now it's more complicated because my signs have to be opposites and I don't know which ones yet. And so because that could change, I'm gonna wait to make that in permanent marker. Factors of 15 are 1 times 15 and 3 times 5. The good news is we have fewer options here, at least. And so what I'm gonna do when I try to figure out how I'm gonna place these is ask myself, do I have a hunch? Do I think that a 1 and a 15, where one of those gets multiplied by a 2, can get me to a 7? My thought is no, but I'm only scratching that out in pencil because I could be wrong. My instinct is to go with the 3 and the 5. So where could I place the 3 and the 5 that I'm going to end up getting closer to 7? I'm going to try placing the 5 here and the 3 here. And if I'm wrong, try again. But 5 times 2x is 10x. X times 3 is 3x. And if I were to subtract these, I could get negative 7x. So this is correct, but my sign for the 10 needs to be negative, and the sign for the 10 means that this one was the negative. So minus 5 plus 3. Hit pause if you need to. Think about why that makes sense. Multiply it back out and check your answer. Take it off to the side and say, okay, I'm going to multiply x minus 5 times 2x plus 3 and see why that works. If you haven't tried E, hit pause and try it. Factors of the first term go in the first spots. 5x times 1x. Factors of 8. 1 times 8, 2 times 4. I'm not sure which ones yet, but I do know for a fact that my signs have to be the same, and because the first sign is a minus sign, that means they're both minus signs. So if I'm thinking about what my bridges are going to look like, where and what ones might get me closer to a 14? If I use this combination here, if I plug in an 8 here, this bridge is going to give me 40. If I plug in an 8 here, I'm going to get an 8 and a 5 for my bridges. Neither of those seem to work, so I'm going to get rid of this for now and think that it's going to be the 2 and the 4. If I plug the 2 into the middle, I'm going to end up having a 4. 4 times 5 is 20. That's going to get me too far away. So I'm going to try to place the 4 here and the 2 here and see what happens. I probably shouldn't have done this in permanent marker because I could be wrong. But 4 times x is negative 4x. 5x times negative 2 is negative 10x. Together, those do make the middle term. So this is the correct answer, and I'm good to go. Hit pause so you can concentrate on that and make it make sense. In the meantime, get a head start on F. Factors of the first term go in the first spots. Factors of 6, it could be 1x times 6x, or it could be 2x times 3x. That complicates things. I can't plug those in confidently yet. But the good news is there's only one way to make 5, 1 times 5. So that I can plug in for sure. I can also take a look at my signs. The last sign is a plus sign. That means that the signs inside are the same, and they're both going to be plus signs. I can plug that in for certain. So I'm going to still draw my bridges, but I'm not 100% sure where the rest is going to go. So think about it. Visualize plugging in your 1 and your 6. If I plug in a 1 and a 6, can I get close to a 17? If I plug in a 2 and a 3, can I get close to it? I'm just going to go with the 2 and 3 because my instincts are saying 2 and 3. So I'm going to plug in 2x and 3x, see what happens. This inside is 3x, this outside is 10x. That didn't work. That makes 13x. So instead, I'm going to switch it. I'm going to make this be 3x and this be 2x. Inside, I get positive 1x. Outside, I get positive 2x, and then positive 15x makes positive 17x, and that is correct. So here I am. Okay, so that's what you're doing, and go ahead and move on to your homework, which is page 4, 5. Page 4 and 5. Give them your best effort, and don't forget you can check the answers.